The vast expanse of space stretched before Admiral Park as he gazed through the reinforced windows of the observation deck. Stars twinkled like diamonds scattered across black velvet, their light casting gentle shadows across his weathered face. Earth's first diplomatic vessel, the Pioneer Spirit, floated gracefully among the stars, its pristine white hull reflecting the distant sunlight. Beside him stood Ambassador Li Jin'e, her formal diplomatic uniform crisp and neat. In her hands, she held the treaty that would change humanity's future forever. The document's golden seal caught the light, a symbol of hope and new beginnings. The Xenovian ships surrounding them were unlike anything humans had ever created. Their hulls seemed to ripple like liquid metal, catching and reflecting light in ways that defied physics. These vessels belonged to Earth's first alien allies, a species that had reached out with open arms when humanity had taken its first steps into deep space. "Look at them, Admiral," Li whispered, her voice filled with wonder. "Who would have thought we'd find friends among the stars?" Park nodded, his hands clasped behind his back. The Xenovians had been a surprise to everyone. When humanity first detected their ships approaching the solar system, fear had gripped Earth. Instead of weapons, they'd brought greeting messages and offers of friendship. Through the observation window, Park could see a Xenovian delegation approaching in their shuttle. Their silvery skin seemed to shimmer under the starlight, and their large, kind eyes held wisdom that spoke of centuries of peaceful exploration. They moved with a natural grace that made them appear to be floating rather than walking. "The Council won't be able to ignore us now," Li said, straightening her jacket. "With the Xenovians supporting our membership, even the most conservative members will have to consider our application." The Galactic Council had been a distant dream for humanity, a gathering of advanced civilizations that governed interstellar relations, trade, and cultural exchange. Earth had discovered its existence only 5 years ago, and since then, joining the Council had become humanity's primary goal. The treaty signing ceremony took place in the Pioneer Spirit's Grand Hall. Humans and Xenovians gathered around a large table made from Earth's finest oak. The Xenovian elder, whose name translated roughly to Keeper of Peaceful Winds, signed first. Their writing looked like flowing water on the page. As the years passed, the partnership between Earth and the Xenovians grew stronger. Human scientists worked alongside Xenovian researchers, combining their knowledge in ways that benefited both species. The Xenovians shared their expertise in sustainable energy, teaching humans how to harness the power of stars without damaging the environment. Earth, in turn, surprised the Xenovians with unique approaches to problems. Human creativity and innovation brought fresh perspectives to age-old challenges. Together, they developed new technologies that improved life across both civilizations. Trade routes between Earth and Xenovian worlds buzzed with activity. Ships carried goods, ideas, and people between the stars. Human artists created works inspired by Xenovian culture, while Xenovian musicians incorporated Earth's rhythms into their songs. Children from both species learned each other's languages and histories in schools. The next 50 years saw unprecedented growth and prosperity. Cities on Earth began to incorporate Xenovian architectural elements, creating stunning structures that seemed to defy gravity. Xenovian worlds welcomed human visitors, establishing cultural centers and exchange programs. Space stations were built at key points between their territories, serving as meeting places for both species. These stations became symbols of cooperation, where humans and Xenovians worked, lived, and celebrated together. Admiral Park, even in his later years, would often return to the observation deck of various ships, watching the steady flow of traffic between Earth and Xenovian space. The sight always brought a smile to his face, reminding him of that first meeting decades ago. Ambassador Li Jin'e went on to become Earth's primary representative to the Galactic Council. Her diplomatic skills and deep understanding of Xenovian culture making her the perfect choice. She never forgot the day they signed the treaty, keeping a small holographic image of the ceremony on her desk. As the 50th anniversary of the treaty approached, both civilizations prepared for grand celebrations. The partnership had grown far beyond simple diplomatic relations. Humans and Cenovians had become true friends, their destinies intertwined among the stars. No one could have predicted how this friendship would be tested in the years to come, or how humanity would stand by their allies when darkness threatened to engulf them. But for now, in this moment of peace and prosperity, the future seemed as bright as the stars themselves. The treaty that Ambassador Lee had held that day remained on display in the Earth-Cenovian Friendship Museum, a testament to the day when humanity found its first true friends among the stars. Its words, written in both human and Cenovian languages, continued to inspire new generations of both species to reach for the stars together. Captain Kim Do-won sat in his dimly lit office aboard the Earth Intelligence Station Vigilant, his eyes fixed on the holographic displays floating before him. Data streamed across multiple screens, showing patterns that made his stomach twist with concern. For 3 months, he had been tracking the Galactic Council's activities, and what he saw troubled him deeply. The station's quiet hum provided background noise as he reviewed another set of meeting records. Where once there had been transparency, now there were gaps. Where there had been open discussions, now there were closed sessions. The pattern was becoming impossible to ignore. Kim pulled up his secure communication channel and contacted Admiral Song Mayray. Her holographic image appeared before him, her expression serious as always. "Admiral, I need to show you something," Kim said, his voice steady despite his unease. He shared his screen with her, highlighting the patterns he had discovered. "Look at these meeting schedules. 6 months ago, both human and Cenovian representatives had full access. Now," he gestured to the latest records, "they're being excluded from nearly half of all high-level discussions." Admiral Song leaned forward in her chair, her eyes narrowing as she studied the data. Could this be standard procedure we weren't aware of? "That's what I thought at first," Kim replied, pulling up another set of documents. "But then I found these. They're building a case against the Cenovians, Admiral, and the data they're using." He paused, bringing up side-by-side comparisons. "It's falsified." The evidence was clear. Trade reports had been altered, showing fictional violations of Council regulations. Peaceful Cenovian research outposts were being labeled as potential military installations. Cultural exchange programs were being painted as attempts at infiltration. "Have you shared this with Ambassador Lee?" Admiral Song asked, her fingers drumming against her desk. "I tried," Kim said, frustration evident in his voice. "The diplomatic corps has been hitting walls at every turn. The Council's bureaucracy has become a maze designed to keep us out." Over the next few weeks, Kim watched as the situation deteriorated further. Earth's diplomatic corps, led by the experienced Ambassador Lee, attempted to navigate the increasingly hostile political landscape. But for every step forward, they were pushed 2 steps back. Lee arranged meetings that were suddenly canceled. She filed formal inquiries that disappeared into administrative black holes. Every attempt to address the growing concerns was met with polite but firm obstruction. In his office, Kim continued gathering evidence. He noticed how other Council species were being turned against the Cenovians through carefully orchestrated propaganda. Small incidents were being blown out of proportion, while centuries of peaceful cooperation were being forgotten. "They're isolating us," Kim reported during another meeting with Admiral Song. "Not just the Cenovians, but Earth too. Any species that speaks in their defense finds themselves facing similar treatment." Admiral Song's response was grim. "Keep gathering evidence. We need to understand the full scope of what we're dealing with." Kim spent sleepless nights analyzing data, trying to piece together the puzzle. He discovered traces of secret meetings between certain Council members, meetings that excluded not only Earth and the Cenovians, but many other species as well. The evidence pointed to a coordinated effort by a small group of powerful Council members. They were using their influence to manipulate the system, turning the Council's own rules and procedures against those they wished to eliminate. Earth's intelligence network picked up whispers of deals being made in shadows, of promises and threats exchanged in private. The Xenovians, once respected members of the Council, were being portrayed as a threat to galactic stability. Ambassador Lee made one final attempt to break through the bureaucratic barriers. She requested an emergency session of the full Council, citing evidence of procedural violations. The request was denied, buried under a mountain of administrative requirements and regulatory clauses. Kim watched as the noose tightened. The Xenovians, Earth's first and most trusted allies among the stars, were being systematically isolated and discredited, and there seemed to be nothing they could do to stop it. "We need to prepare for what's coming," Kim told Admiral Song during their final meeting on the matter. "Whatever they're planning, it's going to happen soon." The Admiral nodded, her face showing the weight of the situation. "Alert our forces. Quietly. We won't let our friends stand alone when the storm breaks." As Kim left the meeting, he looked out at the stars through the station's observation window. Somewhere out there, forces were moving against Earth's closest allies. The whispers of treachery were about to become shouts, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Grand Council chambers gleamed under the light of 3 artificial suns, their golden walls usually a symbol of justice and unity. Today, they felt more like the bars of a cage. 2,000 representatives from across the galaxy sat in curved rows that rose toward the ceiling, all eyes fixed on the central platform. Ambassador Lee stood with the Earth delegation, her hands clasped tightly behind her back. Beside her, the Xenovian representatives maintained their dignity, their silvery skin dulled by the stress of recent weeks. Their elder statesman, keeper of 5 centuries of wisdom, stood tall despite the weight of the moment. The head council speaker rose from his elevated position, his multiple eyes scanning the gathered assembly. The chamber fell into such deep silence that Lee could hear her own heartbeat. The speaker's voice echoed through the vast space as he began reading from a glowing document. After careful deliberation and review of evidence, the Council has reached its decision regarding the status of the Xenovian Federation. The speaker's words seemed to hang in the air. Due to repeated violations of Council regulations, breaches of security protocols, and actions deemed harmful to galactic stability, the Xenovian Federation's membership in the Galactic Council is hereby revoked. Lee felt her nails dig into her palms. The evidence was false, manufactured by those who had orchestrated this betrayal. She watched as the Xenovian Elders' aides steadied their leader, whose shoulders remained straight despite the blow. But the speaker wasn't finished. Furthermore, to ensure the security of Council space, all Xenovian colonies in disputed territories are to be evacuated. Their resources and facilities will be placed under Council control for proper redistribution. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Even some who had voted for the expulsion seemed shocked by the severity of the punishment. The Xenovian delegation stood motionless, their expressions revealing nothing of the pain they must have felt. Lee stepped forward, her voice cutting through the whispers. "This is a mockery of justice," she declared, each word clear and sharp. "The evidence presented is fabricated. The accusations are false. The Council has betrayed not only the Xenovians, but its own founding principles." The speaker raised his hand for silence, but Lee continued. "Earth stands with the Xenovians. We have seen the truth behind these lies. We have witnessed the manipulation of data, the secret meetings, the orchestrated campaign to destroy our allies." Ambassador Lee, the speaker's tone carried a warning. "This matter has been decided by proper Council vote. A vote based on lies." Lee's voice grew stronger. "Earth will not stand by and watch as you destroy a peaceful civilization that has contributed to galactic prosperity for centuries." She turned to face the assembled representatives, her eyes meeting those of species from across the galaxy. "Look at what you have become. Look at what you have allowed to happen." The Xenovians helped half the species in this chamber develop space travel. They shared their knowledge freely. They'd promoted peace for 500 years. The Xenovian elder placed a gentle hand on Lee's shoulder. His voice, when he spoke, carried the wisdom of ages. "We accept the Council's decision. Though we maintain our innocence, we will depart with dignity, knowing that at least one race remembers the truth of our friendship." Lee watched as the Xenovian flag, which had hung in the chamber for 5 centuries, was lowered by automated systems. Their name vanished from the Council's membership wall, erased as if their contributions had never existed. Earth formally withdraws from the Galactic Council, Lee announced, her voice echoing through the chamber. We will not participate in this injustice. Remove our flag as well. The speaker began to protest, but Lee had already turned away. She walked with the Xenovian delegation toward the chamber's great doors, their footsteps echoing in the stunned silence. Behind them, Earth's flag descended, a final statement of solidarity with their betrayed allies. In the antechamber, away from the Council's eyes, Lee embraced the Xenovian elder. This isn't over, she promised. Earth remembers its friends. We will not abandon you. The elder's eyes showed both sadness and gratitude. Your friendship honors us, but this may bring hardship to Earth as well. Then we will face it together, Lee replied. My ships are ready to provide sanctuary to your people. We will not let them take your colonies without a fight. As they walked through the Council building's grand corridors for the last time, Lee sent a coded message to Earth Command. The deed is done. The Council has shown its true nature. Begin Operation Sanctuary. Outside, the artificial suns continued their eternal dance, indifferent to the betrayal that had unfolded beneath their light. But in ships and stations across Council space, wheels were already turning. Earth had made its choice, standing with friendship over political expediency. The galaxy would soon learn that humanity's loyalty, once earned, was not easily broken. The red planet Mars glowed against the black canvas of space, its surface casting a crimson light across the massive orbital shipyards. Director Han Su-bin stood in the control center, watching through reinforced windows as hundreds of workers in spacesuits moved like stars around the hulls of former merchant vessels. What had once been simple cargo ships were transforming into something far more powerful. The massive shipyard, stretching over 20 kilometers, hummed with activity day and night. Crews worked in rotating shifts, their dedication driving them forward despite exhaustion. Status report on the Thunderchild. Han called out to his chief engineer, who was studying detailed holographic projections. Quantum shield integration at 80%, Director. The gravity drive is fully installed and running initial tests. She'll be ready for space trials in 48 hours. Han nodded, satisfaction visible in his tired eyes. The Thunderchild had once been a simple ore carrier, hauling minerals between Earth's colonies. Now she was becoming something else entirely, a warship unlike anything the Council had ever seen. In the docking bay below, Xenovian refugees worked alongside human engineers. Their knowledge of advanced physics, combined with Earth's hidden technological breakthroughs, was creating vessels that would change the balance of power in the galaxy. The Council never knew, Han said softly to himself, watching as workers installed another quantum shield generator. For decades, Earth had maintained a careful facade. While sharing some technologies with the Council, they had kept their most advanced developments hidden. The quantum shields, capable of absorbing and redirecting energy, had been described in theoretical papers as decades away from practical use. The gravity drives were even more carefully guarded. While other species used conventional propulsion, Earth had quietly perfected technology that could bend space itself. Every merchant ship built in the last 20 years had been designed with hidden compartments and reinforced structures, ready for this very conversion. A young engineer approached Han with a tablet displaying new test results. Director, the energy output from the new drive configuration exceeds our expectations. We're seeing 30% more efficiency than projected. Han studied the data, a small smile forming on his face. Good. Apply these modifications to all ships in the fleet, priority to those nearest completion. Through another window, Han could see the refugee housing rings spinning slowly in orbit. Thousands of Xenovians had fled to Earth space when the Council's betrayal began. Now they watched as their human allies prepared to help them reclaim their homes. Director, a voice called from the communication station. Admiral Song is requesting an update on fleet readiness. Han moved to the central holographic display, where Admiral Song's image appeared above the projector. "Progress is good, Admiral. We have 30 ships combat ready, another 50 in final conversion stages." The Admiral nodded, her expression serious. "The Council's forces have begun moving into Xenogian space. They're stripping the colonies bare." "We'll be ready," Han assured her. "These ships, they're unlike anything they're expecting." The Thunderchild completed her weapons tests yesterday. Even our simulations didn't predict this level of performance. A flash of light outside drew Han's attention. Another merchant ship was arriving, its hull still bearing civilian markings. It would enter the shipyard as a simple transport vessel. It would emerge as something far more formidable. In the lower levels of the shipyard, Han visited the training centers where crews learned to operate their new systems. Former merchant sailors worked alongside military personnel, all united in their purpose. The Xenovian instructors provided insights into Council tactical doctrine, helping prepare Earth's forces for what was to come. "Look at this," Han said to a group of Xenovian refugees touring the facility. He showed them the latest completed vessel, its hull now bearing the marks of Earth's defense force. "We haven't forgotten our friends. We haven't forgotten our promises." The Xenovians touched the ship's hull with reverence, their silvery skin reflecting in its polished surface. One of them, a former colony governor, turned to Han with eyes full of emotion. "When the Council betrayed us, we thought we had lost everything. But you have given us hope." Han worked through the night, reviewing progress reports and adjustment requests. The ships grew stronger, faster, more deadly with each passing day. What had started as merchant vessels were becoming the instruments of justice. In his private office, Han kept a piece of Xenovian art, a gift from one of the refugee families. It depicted two stars, bound together in an eternal dance. Below it, he had placed a simple phrase: "Friendship endures." As another day cycle began, Han watched new armor plating being attached to what would become humanity's justice fleet. The ships' hulls gleamed under the artificial lights, their weapons hidden but ready. Soon, they would carry Earth's response to those who had betrayed their allies. The galaxy would learn that appearances could be deceiving. Earth's merchant fleet had been a mask, hiding the potential for something far more powerful. Now that mask was being removed, revealing the steel beneath. Space rippled like disturbed water as Earth's warships emerged from hyperspace. Commander Choi Ta-wan stood on the bridge of the Thunderchild, watching as 30 converted warships materialized around his flagship. Before them lay the Xenovian colony world of New Haven, its blue-green surface now marred by Council occupation forces. "All ships report ready, Commander," his tactical officer announced. The crew worked with focused precision, their months of training evident in every movement. Choi studied the tactical display. Council defense platforms orbited the planet, their weapons already turning to track the sudden arrival of Earth's fleet. "Begin transmission to all frequencies," he ordered. "This is Commander Choi Ta-wan of the Earth Defense Force. To all Council forces occupying New Haven, you have 30 minutes to begin evacuation procedures. Any resistance will be met with appropriate force." The Council ships in orbit began to move, forming defensive patterns they had used for centuries. Choi almost felt sorry for them. Almost. "Thunderchild, take point," he commanded. "Activation sequence for quantum shields. Bring weapons online, but do not fire unless fired upon." The Council forces responded exactly as expected, with a barrage of energy weapons. Their beams struck Thunderchild's quantum shields and simply disappeared, absorbed and redirected into the ship's power systems. "They're powering up their main weapon platforms," the tactical officer reported. "Multiple missile launches detected." Choi nodded calmly. "Show them what we can do." Thunderchild's gravity drive pulsed, and the massive ship moved with impossible grace. Missiles that should have struck home found themselves pulled into artificial gravity wells, detonating harmlessly in space. The Council ships, their weapons useless against Earth's defenses, began to break formation. "Target their weapon systems only," Choi transmitted to his fleet. "Disable, don't destroy." Remember, this isn't revenge. This is justice. Earth's warships moved in perfect coordination, their advanced systems making short work of the Council's defenses. Within 20 minutes, the orbital platforms were silent, and the Council ships were either disabled or retreating. On the surface, Council ground forces were already beginning to evacuate, loading onto transport ships in hurried but orderly fashion. They had never seen technology like this, never faced ships that could simply ignore their most powerful weapons. Message from the surface. Communications announced. The Xenovian resistance is moving to secure key facilities. They're requesting support. Choi dispatched support teams to assist the resistance fighters. The liberation of New Haven would be complete within hours, thanks to careful planning and superior technology. As the last Council ships retreated into hyperspace, Choi received a transmission from a familiar face, the former governor of New Haven, now part of the resistance. Commander, our people, they're coming home. Thank you. The next target was already plotted. Another Xenovian world under Council occupation. The fleet would move quickly, striking multiple systems in rapid succession. The Council would have no time to adapt, no chance to develop countermeasures. All ships prepare for hyperspace jump, Choi ordered. The next phase begins in 30 minutes. Throughout the fleet, crews worked with determination. They had trained for this, prepared for this moment. Each ship had been carefully modified, each crew member selected for their skills and dedication to the cause. As Thunderchild prepared for its next jump, Choi watched the Xenovian civilians beginning to emerge from their shelters on New Haven. Their silver skin caught the light of their sun as they reclaimed their streets, their homes, their world. Send word to Earth Command, he instructed his communications officer. New Haven is secure. Proceeding to Phase 2 of Operation Righteous Thunder. The fleet vanished into hyperspace once more, leaving behind a liberated world and a clear message to the Council. Their betrayal would not go unanswered. Earth's Justice Fleet was coming, and no amount of conventional defense would stop them. In his private quarters later, Choi reviewed the battle footage. Not a single life had been lost on either side. The Council forces had been defeated with precision and efficiency, their weapons rendered useless by Earth's advanced technology. This is how we do justice, he said to himself, watching his fleet's ships move with perfect coordination, not with destruction, but with irresistible force. The next target awaited, and Choi knew that word of this victory would spread quickly through Council space. Soon, they would understand that their actions had consequences, that betraying their allies had been a terrible mistake. Operation Righteous Thunder had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Song stood at her command center on the Earth Defense Force flagship Guardian, watching as the largest Council fleet ever assembled dropped out of hyperspace. 500 warships, led by Supreme Commander Voss of the Council forces, spread across space in an attack formation that would have struck fear into any conventional opponent. They finally decided to show their full strength, Song said quietly, studying the tactical display. Her own fleet of 100 ships maintained their defensive positions around the recently liberated Xenovian homeworld. Admiral, incoming transmission from the Council fleet, her communications officer reported. The holographic image of Supreme Commander Voss appeared on the bridge. His species was known for their imposing height and metallic scales, but Song saw something new in his eyes. Uncertainty. This is your only warning, Voss announced. Surrender your forces and return control of Xenovian space to the Council or face destruction. Song's response was calm and measured. You had your chance for peace, Commander. You chose pride over justice. Now you will learn the price of that choice. The Council fleet launched their attack, thousands of energy beams and missiles streaking across space. Song's ships activated their quantum shields, absorbing the assault without damage. The energy from the attacks was redirected into their systems, making them stronger. Execute pattern Stormbreak, Song ordered. Her fleet broke formation, each ship using its gravity drive to move in ways that defied conventional space combat tactics. They slipped between the Council ships like water through fingers, striking with precise shots that disabled weapons and engines. On the tactical display, Song watched as Council ships tried to coordinate their attacks. But Earth's vessels were too fast, too maneuverable. Traditional combat doctrine fell apart in the face of technology that ignored the normal rules of space warfare. Message from the Centaurian Empire, Admiral. Her political officer reported. They're declaring independence from the Council. Their ships are engaging Council forces in 3 systems. More reports flooded in. The Drakon Confederation, inspired by Earth's success, had begun pushing Council forces from their territory. The Spiral Alliance announced they were reviewing evidence of Council corruption. System after system, species after species, the carefully maintained control of the Council was crumbling. Supreme Commander Voss's flagship attempted to coordinate a concentrated attack on the Guardian. Song allowed a small smile as she watched her ships execute a perfect defensive screen, their quantum shields forming an impenetrable barrier. Target their command and control systems, Song ordered. Let's show them true precision. Earth's ships moved like dancers through space, their gravity drives allowing them to ignore the traditional limits of momentum and inertia. They struck with surgical precision, disabling key systems while avoiding unnecessary destruction. In the midst of battle, Song received a transmission from Earth intelligence. Captain Kim's face appeared on a secure channel. Admiral, we're broadcasting the evidence. Every species in Council space is receiving proof of the corruption. The secret meetings, the falsified charges against the Xenovians. The Council fleet's formation began to break apart. Some ships, their crews now aware of the truth, stopped fighting. Others, loyal to the old order, fought on with increasing desperation. Your pride brought you to this, Commander, Song transmitted to Voss. Surrender now, and we can end this without further damage. The Supreme Commander's response was to order his remaining loyal ships into a suicide run. Song shook her head sadly and gave the order that would end the battle. Earth's ships activated their most advanced systems, creating artificial gravity wells that caught the Council vessels, holding them in place like insects in amber. Their weapons, their engines, their very ability to move, all neutralized by technology they had never imagined possible. To all Council forces, Song broadcast, your fleet is immobilized. Your corruption is exposed. The species you claim to protect are rising against you. Consider carefully what honor demands. One by one, Council ships began signaling their surrender. Supreme Commander Voss's flagship, trapped in a gravity well, finally fell silent. In the days that followed, more systems declared their independence from the Council. The evidence of corruption, combined with the decisive defeat of their military forces, had shattered the Council's authority forever. Song received reports from across the galaxy. Peaceful revolutions, dramatic political changes, species reclaiming their sovereignty. The Council's pride had cost them everything. In her private quarters later, Song reviewed messages from Earth's allies. The Xenovians were already helping other species establish new governments, sharing their experience of rebuilding after liberation. Pride goes before a fall, Song murmured, watching the stars through her window. The galaxy was changing, and Earth had been the catalyst. Not through conquest or dominance, but through a stand for justice that had inspired others to find their own courage. The price of pride had been paid. The future would belong to those who chose cooperation over control, justice over power. Sunlight streamed through the crystal windows of the newly rebuilt Galactic Assembly chambers, casting rainbow patterns across the gathered representatives. The old golden walls had been replaced with transparent panels that showed the actual stars beyond, a reminder of the vastness they all shared. Ambassador Lee stood at the central podium, her diplomatic uniform bearing both Earth's insignia and the new symbol of the Galactic Assembly, a spiral of stars representing unity and diversity. Beside her, representatives from 20 species formed a circle, their varied forms a testament to the galaxy's rich tapestry of life. The Xenovian elder, restored to his rightful place, stood tall among them. His silver skin gleamed as he shared a quiet nod with Lee, remembering the dark days that had led to this moment of renewal. "We gather here not to replace one form of control with another," Lee's voice carried through the chamber, "but to establish something new. A true partnership among equals, built on mutual respect and understanding." The gathered delegates listened intently as she outlined the new charter. Gone were the secret meetings and hidden agendas. Every decision would require open debate and consensus. Power would be shared, rotating among member species to prevent any single group from dominating the others. From his position on the observation deck, Admiral Park watched the proceedings with quiet satisfaction. Age had whitened his hair, but his eyes remained sharp as ever. Below the assembly building, ships from dozens of species moved freely through space, their designs as varied as their crews. "The Charter establishes multiple layers of oversight," Lee continued. "No single species can make decisions affecting others without proper representation and debate. Our diversity is our strength, our differences a source of wisdom rather than division." The former council species, those who had once held power, now sat as equals among those they had once ruled. Some had resisted the changes at first, but the evidence of their corruption and the decisive demonstration of Earth's power had left them no choice but to adapt. One by one, representatives approached the central table to sign the new charter. Each signature was recorded in multiple languages, preserved in formats readable by all member species. The Xenovian elder signed after Lee, their two signatures side by side, a symbol of the friendship that had sparked this revolution. Admiral Park remembered that first meeting, 50 years ago, when humanity had found friends among the stars. Now he watched as young officers from Earth served alongside crews from 20 different species, learning from each other, growing stronger together. "The Galactic Assembly will maintain peace," Lee declared, "not through force or fear, but through cooperation and mutual benefit. Each member species brings unique strengths, unique perspectives. Together, we are greater than the sum of our parts." The new assembly chambers included research facilities where scientists from all species could work together, sharing knowledge freely. Trade routes once controlled by the Council now flowed freely, monitored by mixed species crews to prevent exploitation. In orbit above, the combined fleet of the Galactic Assembly conducted joint exercises. Earth's advanced ships flew alongside vessels from other species, sharing technology and tactics. The quantum shields and gravity drives, once hidden, were now being adapted by other species, each adding their own innovations. Ambassador Lee concluded the ceremony by activating the Assembly's new communication network. Unlike the old Council's restricted systems, this network would allow free exchange of information between all member species. Transparency would be their guardian against corruption. Admiral Park made his way slowly to the main floor as the formal proceedings ended. Around him, representatives from 20 species mingled freely, their translators allowing easy conversation. He found Lee speaking with the Xenovian elder, their long friendship evident in their comfortable interaction. "Did you ever imagine this, Admiral?" Lee asked as he approached. "When we first met the Xenovians, did you think it would lead here?" Park shook his head, smiling. "I hoped for friendship. We found something more, a chance to help build a better galaxy." The elder gestured to the stars visible through the transparent walls. "Look how they shine now, my friends. They light the path to our shared future." Together, they watched as ships from all species moved through space, their paths crossing and weaving like threads in a cosmic tapestry. The old barriers were gone, replaced by bridges of understanding and cooperation. The galaxy had changed, and they had helped change it. Not through conquest or dominance, but through standing firm for justice and friendship. The dawn of a new era had arrived, bright with promise and possibility. Earth and the Xenovians, once betrayed allies, now stood as guardians of this new order. But they stood not as rulers, but as partners in a greater whole. The stars seemed brighter somehow, as if they too celebrated this new beginning.